Hi, my name is Susan Allan, and I'm the founder of the Marriage Forum and the Divorce Forum. And I'm also a certified mediator and a divorce coach. And today's training is an opportunity for you to learn how to avoid the misery and the suffering, and I'm not exaggerating here, of divorce that includes attorneys and court. The truth is that for about 95% of you, you have absolutely no need for attorneys or court in your divorce. And the people that can do an online divorce, well, you could be one of those people. The people who can negotiate the points in their divorce and go to court and file it at the courthouse or get a paralegal to file it for them, that's you. 95% of you, not everyone, 95% of you. The only thing that stands between you and mediating your own divorce is some simple tools and skills that I've developed and that I teach. And I want to tell you one example. Many years ago, about 16 years ago, I was divorce coaching a woman who wanted a divorce. And I was the secret weapon. She was very concerned about this divorce. She thought it was going to take an enormous amount of money and time, and that she might have to go to court. And she was very worried. And so I taught her how to motivate and inspire her husband, how to communicate with him in a completely different way, using my 6-part conversation, how to really understand him. And here's what happened. So I recommended an attorney mediator for her, and her husband selected another attorney mediator. And her husband was out of state, so they did this in the office of the guy that I recommended, who's wonderful, by the way. I'm not in any way suggesting that these mediators and attorneys aren't wonderful. I'm just saying you can save a fortune if you don't need them. So here's what happened. They're in the room, and she's on the phone with her husband, and everybody's going back and forth and around and around and around for hours. And then she says, you know what? I bet I could talk to my husband and we could solve this. And so she said to these 2 attorney mediators, would you do me a favor and just go wait outside? I'm going to talk to my husband. I think we can get this done. Now, she was saying things that I had taught her to say. She certainly didn't think she could get this done. It looked hopeless. This was her last-ditch attempt to throw these attorney mediators out into the hall and use all these skills. And here's the bottom line. She negotiated all the terms of her divorce in just 1 hour. Just 1 hour, then she opened the door, she called them back in. Her husband spoke over the phone to everybody. She spoke to everybody. They made an MSA, which is the marital settlement agreement. Within a couple of days, it was filed. After it was signed, a divorce. So doesn't that sound like a wonderful thing, to be able to learn enough tools and skills so instead of fighting with your spouse over a divorce, you're actually able to motivate and inspire him? And not just motivate and inspire him, but do a better job than 2 mediators who were in the room. So I just was so proud of her. She avoided misery. She avoided suffering. It was a complicated divorce. There were a lot of different components, a lot of different property. There were different components because she worked for a large corporation and so did he. So they both had retirement plans. It was very complicated, but she did it. Now I'm going to tell you about a very interesting divorce where I was able to mediate it in 45 minutes. I had spoken to the wife 3 times as divorce coach. I had spoken to the husband twice as a divorce coach. Then they decided they also wanted to use me as a mediator. Some people do, some people don't. It's fine either way. We started our phone call. I had all of the financial documents from them. I already had a very good idea of what she thought was fair and what he thought was fair. And it looked like it was going to be very easy. And then about 30 minutes into it, the wife suddenly became very upset. And she said, I don't know if I want to give up, and then mentions a piece of property. Well, we're in California, they were in California. Even though I do this work with people over the phone all over the world, and I've flown to different states to do this for families, they're a California couple, and so this is a community property state. And so she could have gone around and around with this for hours and days. She could have wasted $100,000 on mediation or litigation. But at the end of the day, they purchased this property after they got married, and so the property belongs to both of them. And there's not that much you can do about it. So I very sweetly said to her, you know, I know how important it is for you to save all the money that can be saved. I know that you don't want to go down a dead end. I know you don't want to go around in circles and circles because this is mediation, obviously, you pay for it. So please understand that this particular scenario, the division of assets, it's what's going to happen. Unless you have some additional information that I didn't know about. Unless you've consulted with a CPA who specializes in dissolution, or a certified divorce financial analyst who specializes in divorce, and you've got some new information to tell your husband. If you've got something like that, then by all means, let's hear about it. But you don't want to waste $100,000 in a hideous litigation or mediation process. And in 2 minutes, she said, you know what, you're right. I know that this is the way that it's going to end up. I don't want to waste another minute. So 45 minutes total mediation with 3 divorce code sessions for her and 2 for him. And since I offer a free 1-hour session, that means that she didn't pay for one of them and he didn't pay for one of them. So it's pretty irresistible, wouldn't you say? Isn't that something you'd like to do, even if your scenario is not that easy? Even if your scenario is complicated, wouldn't you love to be able to cut out all of the pain and the misery and the recriminations and the emotional stress, the exhaustion, the suffering? I know a lot of people who the day after they go to court, they're in bed for the whole day or a couple of days. And I have to tell you, I know a lot more horror stories than that. Feel free to call me and I'll tell you whatever it is you want to hear. I've got horrible stories about that option. But the alternative is, and I'd love to tell you another story, the alternative is this is a divorce that I coached and trained this woman, again, to mediate her own divorce. And it was a financial decision for her. She really needed to save as much money as possible. And it was outside of the United States, different country, and here's the horror of this divorce. And she's not the only one who's had this scenario. She supported her husband financially for many, many years. And in the country in which they are residents, just as in the United States of America, if you have financially supported your spouse for many, many years, please know that the family court system doesn't care about right and wrong and fair and should and shouldn't. What they care about is making sure that you are never going to be a ward of the United States of America or this other country, which is Canada, that you're not going to be a ward of that state and that country, that you're not going to be qualified in our country for welfare or assistance in Canada, the dole. So you want to be sure that you are very clever if you've been supporting your spouse. Unless you have some real skills to motivate and inspire him or her, you're looking at a lot more years of spousal support. And I know it's the last thing you want to think about. So I taught her how to speak to him. And we began with emails, because teaching someone how to write emails is a lot easier than teaching them how to have a communication, right? Because when you're talking to somebody, you don't know what they're going to come up with. You have no idea what they're going to throw at you. But if you're doing an email, I can help you write the emails as I do. You can send it. Then you get the answer from them. You send the answer to me that you got from your partner. You and I work on the response. And we do this little by little over a period of time until you've gotten really good at communicating with your partner. And that's exactly the path that she took. So little by little, we were able to resolve all of her challenges, and they were some very, very complicated business challenges as well. It was a very tricky scenario, and I can tell you about it to some degree, but of course, to maintain the confidentiality and privacy of my clients, I won't tell you too much. You'll tell me about your situation, and I'll tell you how I would help you solve that, which is even better for you, right? So with her scenario, we got the mediated agreement written, and I did most of the writing based on all of these emails and conversations she'd had with him and all the things he was willing to agree to. She had to consult a couple of different experts, and you may too. Certain scenarios, you may have to connect with an appraiser for your house, maybe a child psychologist if you have young children, possibly an attorney if there's something that is a complicated legal issue, as she had. You may have to connect with a CPA specializing in divorce or a CDFA specializing in divorce. I have referrals to recommend, or you can find your own people. And then finally, little by little, we had the written agreement. He had some questions. She knew how to field the questions. She knew how to discuss them with him, and ultimately they signed it, and she went to the courthouse and she filed it herself, which saved her more money. She didn't have to hire an attorney to do that, or in our country, a paralegal can also do that. And it was another very, very happy story from someone who thought, I'm never going to be able to get a divorce. I am going to be stuck in this misery forever. I am going to be paying these bills forever. In a few months, because it was complicated and there were a lot of issues, in a few months it was done. And also a lot of it has to do with how many sessions you can have with me, because this is like learning how to play tennis or bake a souffle. If you can have sessions with me every day, then you can get a result much, much faster. And that's the key here, because you want to avoid spending a lot of money on litigation or mediation. You want to avoid the suffering for yourself, your children, and any pets you have, because it is exhausting and stressful. And you don't want this to go on for a long time, right? You want this to be over as soon as you can. So what are the distinctions of mediating your own divorce or breakup, having a divorce coach, or having a certified mediator like me? These are very, very important distinctions. The good news is you don't have to make that choice when you contact me, because I'm the one who will actually be able to recommend to you how long it would take me to train you to mediate your own divorce, or how much divorce coaching you probably need based on the information you give me, based on the community assets, the community debts. And if your spouse is someone who's suffering with addiction, that's more time and skills. If your spouse is someone where there are issues of infidelity, pornography, any of that, you've got problems that we have to teach you how to solve. What about all of the different anger issues? If either of you lives on a roller coaster, I've got to teach you. We don't care about your partner getting the skills. That's not required. Just one of you needs these skills. But I've got to teach you how to bring yourself to peace no matter what. And you are now, from the minute you contact me, you're in a no-fight zone, because it's going to cost you dollars, hundreds of dollars, thousands of dollars or more every time you have a little bit of unpleasant conversation with your partner. If you want to motivate and inspire your partner to have a peaceful, mediated divorce, whether you do the mediation or I do or somebody else does, the only way to do that is learn how to bring your partner to peace. Now, I would recommend that you go to my website, Heartspace Solutions, and take a look at the 4-hour video training that's there. It's $97, though it's worth a lot more, And it's 4 hours in which you'll learn how to calmly motivate somebody to listen to you and to communicate with you about anything. This training, How to Mediate Your Own Divorce or Breakup, is the additional training so that you get the specific divorce skills. And in the second part of this training, we're going to talk about all the different specifics you need for emails, you need for conversations, you need for texts, because there are a number of basic scenarios that exist. And by all means, go to the Amazon link that you've seen on the board, and it showed you the tiny URL for 101 Divorce Secrets: A Survival Guide, which is one of my ebooks. You can download the ebook for free, and it was written by me and all the most important and prominent divorce experts who helped me get through my life-threatening divorce in 1999. And I really, really encourage you to download this book while it's for free. And it's short, and you'll be able to get a very good picture of what you need to do, because if you're going through the 7 stages of divorce, panic, denial, agony, rage, epiphany, negotiation, and peace, there are a number of things that you have to know. You have to know, first of all, that this is not a linear progression. This is not a timeline. You don't go from one to the next, to the next, to the next. You're going to go up and down, panic, denial, agony, rage, epiphany. Now then you start to be competent to self-generate peace. Then negotiation, and that's where you negotiate with yourself before you negotiate with your partner or your spouse. And finally, peace, which is where I've been living now for 15, 16 years. You've got to live there a lot of the time in order to generate this peaceful, fair mediation. And whether you mediate your own divorce, or I help you do it, or another mediator helps you do it, all of this is peaceful and cooperative compared to going to court with 2 attorneys and having a judge who you don't know decide what's best for you and your family. So that is the warning, right? If you don't get more skills than you have today, because today you're contemplating divorce, so if you don't get more skills than you have today, this marriage that's not great, this partnership that's not a real partnership, is going to end up in court, and I promise you will not like what it costs you. You will not like the outcome as much as when you have the skills and you know what you want, you know what's best for you, you know what's best for your family. You just need me to teach you how to motivate and inspire that other side so that you have an outcome that works for both of you. So I'm Susan Allan, and I'll see you soon.